Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Callie, and today I am going to be doing a wrap-up of my owls. So if you don't know, I'll link the original video down below, but Owls is a month-long readathon in the month of April, hosted by G over at Book Roast, where she puts in a lot of work and effort to set up these owls that we can take, and each owl corresponds with a different book, and each has their own individual prompts. So I passed all of my owls this year, which was really exciting because this is the first time I was actually doing this readathon. So I chose a bunch of different things to do. What you get to do is you get to pick careers. You can pick one, you can pick 400 or all of them. I decided to go with 2 careers, so I'm just going to go through the list of each prompt that I fulfilled and what I thought of the book. So the first career that I went to is Magical Tome Keeper, because that's basically what I do anyway. So for the first class that I needed for Magical Tome Keeper was Ancient Runes, which was to have a heart on the cover. So for that, I chose All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. It has like this little tiny heart on the sword, but I'm counting it. So this was actually my February Owl Crate, so helped me keep up with my Owl Crate reads as well. And this was a seafaring adventure, and as you guys know, that is just such a niche that I constantly gravitate towards. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was really fun. We follow this girl who is supposed to have a specific type of magic as the successor to the throne. But when during her demonstration she comes up with a different type of magic, she ends up on the run with a pirate and somehow a mermaid to figure out why she doesn't have this correct magic, and finds out that her family is cursed. So there's curses, pirates, mermaids, and then there's a really big bad guy. So this had wonderful makings for a great seafaring story that gives us both on land and under the sea, which is my just perfect atmosphere. The one thing that I will say is I felt like the end was a little rushed, which is why I gave this 4 stars. I just feel like we were building up to this potential big fight in the next book, and then our big fight happened at like the last 20 pages. It felt very rushed, and now I'm kind of unsure as to where we're going with the next book. So that was a bit confusing to me, but overall I loved every single character. The romance was a really good slow burn, part enemies to friends to lovers, and Vatea the mermaid is probably one of my most favorite side characters I have ever met in a book. She was just a phenomenal character. We saw her growth, we see kind of where she's going, and Vatea is amazing, and I love her. And she made this book, just gave this book so much more depth and intrigue, and it was just phenomenal. The next class that I had to take for Magical Tome Keeper was Charms, and the Charms prompt was to read a book with a white cover, which worked out really well because our April Serpent and Badger book club was Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I was really skeptical going into this book. I've heard very, very good things, and that always makes me nervous going into a new story, is hearing all of this praise, because I'm always really afraid that I'm going to be the odd one out and not like it. I gave this book 4.5, and I only gave it 4.5 was because it took me a while to get into the story. Similar to my thoughts on Crescent City, this was so much fun. So this is an adult high fantasy book, which we follow Mia, who is training in assassin school to take revenge for her family. Her father was murdered as a traitor, and she wants to prove his innocence and murder the people who framed him. And she has a lot of other good reasons to do that. So, like I said, the beginning was a little rough to kind of get a good flow into reading this, because one of the biggest things about Nevernight is there are footnotes, which makes the narration extremely intriguing, because it's the narrator who's giving you these little footnotes about the story, as if they're speaking the story to you, and they're like, oh yeah, this is also a thing, and they're at the bottom. Or it adds to the world building, where it'll be it'll list a place and it'll give you like a little paragraph of history of that place so that you kind of get more information and can get sucked down deeper into this world. And I really loved that once I figured out a flow to get into it. So for me, it worked out really well to read the page and not stop at the footnotes and just read the footnotes at the end. That worked out for me. For some people that doesn't work because it does break away from the story, so you do get kind of broken up at the beginning. But once I got toward about the halfway point, I just fell into this, and the footnotes were just a part of the story. It was like someone dictating it to me. So really loved Mia. I'm really excited to continue her journey. I just fell in love with this book. I will have more thoughts on this in our Serpent and Badger book talk, which we will see when we are able to do those because we had a lot of technical difficulties filming the March Serpent and Badger book club book talk. How many times can I say the word book? So we will see what we can do because obviously due to COVID-19 we can't all really get together. The next prompt for Magical Tome Keeper was History of Magic, and the prompt for that one was featuring witches. So I actually did 2-ish books that filled this prompt. The main one that I'm going to go with is Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This witches are only kind of mentioned like briefly, but I'm gonna count it because they're featured in the book. So Falling Kingdoms is the start of a YA, long YA fantasy series that I think is very underrated. This was such a cool story. I gave this 4 stars as well. And this is very if Game of Thrones was toned down a bit. So it's YA Game of Thrones, basically, which is really cool because the story is unique. It only gave me Game of Thrones is because we're following several different characters that eventually I know that their stories are going to collide. That's really the major aspect that I got. So we follow 3 main characters, which are really 3 main people in the 3 separate areas of this world. 2 were trying to go to war with the main country. We follow the princess of that main country as her sister is dying, and she's trying to find this magical cure. And we follow a lot of bad guys, and it's just such an interesting story. I believe this one is 6 books long, something to that effect. But it has so much depth and the characters are phenomenally written. The banter is great. The love interests, a little insta-lovey, but it's okay. I'm interested to see where that aspect goes, if there will be more romance. This focused a lot on politics and the war front. And there was like a little bit of romance, but it was kind of just shoved under the rug. Which I'm totally cool with. I am huge into fantasy, and I'm not really there for the romance. I'm there for it to hurt me. So that's a thing. But I would highly recommend this series if you liked Game of Thrones, Throne of Glass, any kind of long story. These books aren't quite as lengthy as the Throne of Glass books, so they're really easy. I think I finished this in 2 days. It is such a quick read. So easy to fall into. There's no info dumping. It has the perfect way to give you background and history of the world, which is slowly and implemented throughout the story. So very, very good book. Very excited to continue this series. And the last subject for Magical Tome Keeper is Transfiguration, which the prompt for that was to read a book that features shapeshifters, which worked out well because I'm continuing my reread with Throne of Glass. So Empire of Storms, which is book 5 of the Throne of Glass series. We have a shapeshifter in here. This is book 5, so I can't go too much into details without spoiling the rest of the series. And I'm not going to do that because if you haven't read this series, please do. It's probably one of my favorites ever. I love Sarah J. Maas. All of her books have been phenomenal, and I love them all. Please read them. I finished Magical Tome Keeper. The second career that I decided to go with was Healer. So there was a few overlapping. It included Charms and Transfiguration. So those ones I already finished for Magical Tome Keeper, so that was perfect. So the subjects that I needed for Healer was, first one is Herbology, which this one was read a book that starts with the letter M. So I read Mermaid Moon by Susann Cokal. First off, can we just appreciate how gorgeous this cover is? Also, it's extremely heavy, and I ordered this off Amazon, and it has sprayed edges. It's just, overall, a beautiful book. So that was amazing. I've had my eye on this, because it's called Mermaid Moon. Shocker there, I know. And it was described as a very poetic Little Mermaid, and that's exactly what it was. So I gave this book 4 stars. It was really magical. So it is about this girl who is half human, half mer, and she is sent on this journey to find her human self, and figure out where she belongs. And she ends up on this weird island where the matriarch of this island is stealing souls to elongate her life. And our mermaid Sana gets sort of caught up in all of this magic. And she's so naive, but she's not naive about her naivety. Does that make sense? I don't really know. But she understands. She's like, I know nothing about this world, and this lady's being nice to me. Like, go Team Ra. Whereas you are the reader who's reading this, it felt very like poetry. It wasn't written in verse or anything. It was written as a novel. But it felt like poetry, and you're just sitting there going, Sana, she's gonna hurt you. Run away. Run. Use the legs you have now and run. So it was a very interesting story, and it took such a wild turn with the magic, with the mermaids. And mermen had a very big role in this story, which I super wasn't ready for, because you never see mermen, you only see mermaids. So that was a huge thing, and there was these like blood roses. That was awesome. Just, this book is so, if you like lyrical, anything mermaids, corrupt magic, and a naive main character, check it out. It's pretty great. The next subject for Healer was Defense Against the Dark Arts, which was to read a book at the sea or coast. So Mermaid Moon and All the Stars and Teeth fell into that prompt, but because I'm an overachiever, I picked up a whole separate book, which was These Rebel Waves by Sara Raasch. This is part of a duology and has been on my shelves for a hot minute, and I really wanted to get to it. So unfortunately, I only gave this 3 stars, which still isn't a bad rating. It wasn't a bad book. It was very confusing. The pacing was really off for me. But so we follow these 3 characters. One was a child soldier. One is a prince who is also a heretic of a very religious country. And the last is a pirate. And the pirate and the former child soldier are trying to save their island from being completely taken over by this extremely religious kingdom that hates magic. And this island is full of magic. But then we have the prince, who is trying to use that magic to save people from a plague, and it's bad things. But what I really liked about this book was the magic. So it wasn't like typical wand waving kind of magic. It was botanical magic. So it was a lot of herbs and how you crush the herbs, how you used the herbs, how you mix them together, how you channeled them with water or on different parts of this island. And I thought that was really cool and really well done, and one of my favorite aspects of it. I do think that the story is really cool. Just the whole heresy, religion, magic, the purging of people who are magical, the whole PTSD in character. I think that was extremely well done, because you hear about all these characters who have horrid backstories, and you're like, you should be really screwed up. These ones were. That was extremely well done, hands down. It's just the pacing was all over the place for me, and it got really confusing after a while. So I didn't give it the highest of rating, but I would recommend it if you like seafaring, adventures, pirates, magic. The next prompt was potions, and that was to read a book under 150 pages. Now, because I read so much fantasy, I actually don't have a ton of books that are under 150 pages, but in one of my owl crates last year, I got a graphic novel, and I saw that graphic novel's sequel came out recently. So I grabbed that, and that is The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. This is a graphic novel basically about these dragons where the like growth that comes off of them is used for tea. And it's just this really cute story. I gave it 5 stars. I think the art is phenomenal. You get little tidbits about the different types of dragons, the chamomile dragon, the chai dragon, and they have set personalities, which is really unique. And I loved the really cute art style. It was just a really fun story, and I believe there's supposed to be one more coming out, So I'm very excited to continue with this graphic novel series. And the last one for Healer was Astronomy, which this prompt was to read a book only at night. And helps if I have the book on the right way. I chose Imagine Me by Tahereh Mafi. Didn't really choose it. I just ended up reading this in one night because I needed answers. This is the final book to the Shatter Me series, which is 6 books long with 2 novellas. And it's actually kind of 2 separate series. We have the original trilogy and then we have the post trilogy. So this is the final book of that series. And I fell in love with Shatter Me about a year ago. And I've been patiently waiting for this final book to come out. And honestly, now that I'm kind of thinking about more of it, when I initially finished it, I gave it 4. I'm kind of at 3.5 right now because it wasn't very satisfying of an ending. It just kind of ended. Like, we didn't get much towards the ending. There was a really good twist that happened in this book that I really liked and was not ready for, and I thought that was extremely well executed, but I don't feel satisfied with this ending. I still feel like there should be more. And I know she's talked about doing a novella after the fact, kind of similar to how Stars Above did an after novella after Winter. So I'm hoping there is that, because I don't feel like it concluded in the right way. It was jam-packed full of adventure and romance and more Warner and Juliet, which I love. But there are some characters that were forgotten, and that's kind of sad because I really wanted them to have something. It doesn't feel finished. And I really hope that she does something to make it feel finished. So that was it for Healer, and I chose 2 subspecialties. I chose Mermaid Linguistics, which there was only one, and that was Herbology, so I read Mermaid Moon for that, which was perfect. And then I chose Animagus Training. So again, that one had a couple of overlapping ones, which was Potions, which was the Tea Dragon Society, and Transfiguration, which is either Empire Storms or Tower of Dawn. I did read both during the Owls. So the last prompt that I needed for Animagus Training was Arithmancy. So Arithmancy was to read a book that was out of your comfort genre, outside of my favorite genre. So my favorite genre I would classify as high fantasy or just YA fantasy. So what I ended up choosing is The Luxe by Anna Godbersen. This is a YA historical fiction, and I chose this because I know that I do really like historical fiction, but I have a very specific niche with historical fiction. When I read historical fiction, it's always King Henry VIII's court. Literally, that is it. End of list. It is him and his wives. Give me any of that historical fiction. So this takes place in 1899 New York. This is very... if Gossip Girl were in 1899, which I did really like Gossip Girl when I was younger. I've watched all of it. I gave this 2.5. It was fine. Nothing happened, which is kind of an issue that I had. So we're following a bunch of different characters similar to Gossip Girl. We have our goody two-shoe rich girl. We have our not so goody two-shoe rich girl. There's boy problems. A younger sibling loves someone else's love interest. There's an engagement. And the main character dies, kinda, and you're following up to her death. It's interesting. Like, it could have been really interesting and really cool, but they focused so much on the love. I don't even want to call it a triangle, because it wasn't a triangle. There were so many people in this little love diagram. It's like I'm solving a conspiracy theory on who likes who in all of this nonsense. I feel like if we focused, I would rather focus on what was going on in New York at the time historically, or politics or something like that. Politics are vaguely mentioned. The one thing that I do really like is before each chapter, there is a little snippet either from a newspaper or from a book, which I really like because that actually sets you up for which character you're following, because I know one of the characters you follow is a maid. So typically before her chapters, we get little snippets from how to be a successful lady's maid, and it's little snippets as to how these people became why these people are the way that they are. And I really liked that aspect. I just feel like there should have it could have expanded more. And actually currently I am reading the second book, Rumors, just because I'm hoping it'll get better. This series is 4 books long. So, I mean, there has to be a plot somewhere, right? There was no plot. I don't understand. But kind of a disappointment, but I did read it. I did it. And I'm reading the second one. So I got that going for me. So those are all the books that followed my prompts. I did read a couple of other books during the month of April. If you guys want to hear more about those, I can make a whole separate video, but I figured having a recent reads and an Owls wrap up seemed kind of silly. So that's going to be it for today. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Everything will be linked down below, including Book Roast, G over at Book Roast's Owls announcement. I'm really excited for August to do our Newts, because that is a more intensive readathon in August? I want to say August. So look forward to that. I'm really excited. This was a lot of fun to find prompts that were still within my TBR. It was just good fun. So thank you guys. Stay safe and stay healthy, and I will see you guys in our next video. Bye!